Good day, everyone. Welcome to Real Conservative News. I'm your host, Nathaniel Rajkumar. Starting off locally here in Trinidad and Tobago, 3 police officers have been detained as part of an ongoing probe into an alleged criminal conduct. Guardian Media understands that around 9 a.m. yesterday, officers of the Professional Standards Bureau went to the Maloney police station where the officers were assigned. The officers were on duty at the time and were arrested, and their lockers at the station were searched. I wonder if this has anything to do with the evidence disappearing recently, or is that another police station where that occurred? The fact of the matter is, people, this is one of the reasons why we cannot give police officers that Zoso power at this point in time, because this is widespread throughout the police service, people. The TTPS is extremely corrupt. There's a whole lot of rogue officers. The entire world knows about it. This is not just something local. The international bodies know about the extrajudicial killings and the lawlessness within our Trinidad and Tobago police service. Now, I'm not saying that all police officers are crooked like that. The vast majority of them do not observe the normal basic laws that the rest of us are expected to abide by. And what am I talking about? We're talking about the parking or using obscene language in public. The vast majority use obscene language even when arresting someone for using obscene language. That's the hypocrisy within the TTPS. And besides that, one of the basic laws that they violate, most of them violate on a daily basis. We are talking about traffic laws, parking laws, whether in police vehicles, unmarked police vehicles, or in their private vehicles. They boldly park on where they're not supposed to park, in no parking zones. I see it happening in Sangre Grande all the time. And what happens if the traffic wardens see them? They'll just talk to them, laugh, hee, and then they go on their way. They're not ticketed for violating those laws. But the common man who parked in the same place for the same reasons, which is to probably go and buy something to eat or go and use the ATM, right? Go in the drugstore. They will be ticketed. And I think now is what, $2,000 now for a parking ticket. And that's what people call lawlessness. And yet the ones enforcing the laws are breaking the law most of the times more than anybody else, including licensing officers. At time they parked illegally in Sangre Grande, a whole bunch of them. And I watch them and say, watch out all you. Bunch of hypocrites, and they get vexed with me, and they start to use all kind of language and stuff like that. Because I am, unlike a lot of different people, I come out and expose people. A lot of police officers in Sangre Grande got angry with me in the past as well for doing the same. Showing them and recording them and showing them, watch here. You're always enforcing the law and telling people, don't park here, don't do this, don't do that. But yet you're doing the same things. So that's what the vast majority are law-abiding citizens in general. Because people who park in illegally, they are not criminals, people. They're doing so because sometimes it really isn't, there's nowhere to park at, but they need to go and purchase something quickly. Most of the times they do not stay long in the first place. And that's exactly what the police officers do. But they don't give nobody a bly because of that. Because in their minds, they can do it because they are the law, but the rest of us have to abide by those even simple laws. But besides that, we are talking about the rogue elements within the police service. There's a whole lot of them, and throughout the entire service. And what happens is when you give them these Zoso powers without putting things in place, like body cameras, and also ensuring that laws are put in place to hold these rogue officers accountable for their actions, then what you're doing is just putting citizens, the common man, in a situation where they are going to be targeted and persecuted. Now, let's be clear about something. Police officers don't really go after law-abiding citizens. They go after suspects. But even suspects have constitutional rights. And therefore, the police officers are supposed to be abiding by the law and following proper protocol. Because what ends up happening is, a lot of these individuals that are suspects end up getting good lawyers. And they win in court. Because why? The police officers violated proper protocol. And what ends up happening is that the taxpayers have to pay millions of dollars in compensation. That's, of course, if the victim ends up even surviving, because a lot of the times these rogue officers go and end up killing these individuals. And this is why, of course, as much as I support the Zoso law, I do not think this is the right time to do it. We need to ensure that, firstly, Roger Alexander is placed in a new position. He's given a new position in the administration. Give someone like Gary Griffith, who is very intelligent and capable of fulfilling the role of Homeland Security, that position in the government. And therefore, we will know for sure that now we can have confidence that there will be significant police reform in the TTPS, and therefore the ZOSO law can be implemented. I do believe, even though the independent senators lean on the PNM side, I do believe they are willing to pass that law, you know, people. But certain things have to be put in place first. Don't go anywhere. More local, regional, and international news up next. Heritage sites in Trinidad and Tobago must be preserved to safeguard the country's history, according to visiting archaeologist Professor Mark Hauser, who is leading documentation or work at the historic Cedar Grove Estate in South Trinidad. Hauser, a professor of anthropology at Northwestern University, said protecting sites like Cedar Grove is critical to understanding the lives of enslaved and indentured workers who shaped the nation. He said the Cedar Grove Estate, which dates back to the late 18th century and early 19th centuries, began as a sugar plantation before being converted into a copra processing facility in the late 1800s. Hauser described the site as unique, pointing to remains of a preserved copra factory that offers rare insight into the region's industrial past. Look at that. I don't even know that we have those kind of historical sites right here in Trinidad and Tobago. I've just started to do some tourism, local tourism right here in my own country. I mean, I know about Fort George and stuff like that, but like what they're mentioning there sounds like a nice place that probably the whole family can get together and go and visit sometime. Another suspected arson incident has been reported in South Trinidad, with the latest blaze occurring at an abandoned house in Sutton Street, San Fernando, which gutted a wooden home and damaged 3 others shortly after a police operation. Police said the building was occupied by drug pushers or whores, so they were trying to cover up evidence. 2 other suspected arson attacks took place in Siparia and Claxton Bay over the weekend. Let's just hope that the police officers could actually do their job, you know, in a proper and legal way, and end up apprehending the individuals who are committing these crimes. And of course, when you commit these types of crimes, you should face at least 10 years to 20 years in prison. You see, anything like violent, like robbery, armed robbery and stuff like that, definitely 20 plus years. Arson and stuff could be like 10 to 15 to 20 years. Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar says the United States is assisting Trinidad and Tobago with the rollout of an advanced passenger screening system aimed at identifying potential threats before they enter the country. So even though the radar system is gone, they are still here to assist us in protecting our borders and our nation as well. This news comes as she says the U.S. radar served the country well, and she's 100% correct about that. I do believe it acted as a deterrence because Maduro realized that all those threats he was making against Trinidad and our Prime Minister, he realized, listen, don't play mad. Don't go and do anything that could end up costing you very significantly. Because that radar system, he didn't know if, along with that radar system, which would have detected incoming missiles and so forth, he didn't know if there was also devices there, equipment there that could be able to fire back into his country as in a form of retaliation. He knows very well. He could say what he wants about the regiment of Trinidad and Tobago, you know, because his army is superior to our army, our regiment. But his army is definitely not superior to the United States of America military, and it was proven. He was arrested. He wasn't even expected it. and right now, he's now facing serious charges in court in America.
The APIS legislation, which is the Advanced Passenger Information Service. When we link these together, even before you land, we can have a clear idea whether it's a good guy or a bad guy.
She says the country continues to collaborate closely with the U.S. authorities on several security initiatives, including new systems aimed at strengthening border control.
When you land, by that point we will have online, we could have information which the U.S. agreed to help us with.
Meanwhile, in addressing concerns surrounding the recent removal of the U.S.-operated radar system in Tobago, Persad-Bissessar says it served well but was needed elsewhere.
We were lucky to have it the time we have it. They need it for their own use. As you know, they're on another front and they probably need it for that purpose. But it did serve us well.
Recently, the Opposition People's National Movement raised concerns over what it described as troubling lack of transparency over the government's handling of the U.S. military radar that was installed in Tobago last year. The Prime Minister also defended the current state of emergency, noting that while murders have dropped significantly, more work is needed. Jesse Ramdale, CNC3 News.
For Monday, 23 March 2026, the weather forecast in Trinidad and Tobago is expected to be generally fair and breezy, though a few cloudy patches and light showery spells are possible. Rainfall, light or moderate showery spells are possible throughout the day, although the morning may start partly cloudy. Temperatures will reach a high of roughly 30 degrees Celsius to 31 degrees Celsius, with a low near 24 degrees Celsius. Heat index: the maximum heat index could feel like 33 degrees Celsius. A mild concentration of Saharan dust is expected to be present in the atmosphere. Winds are expected at 0.530 km per hour from the northeast to east-southeast. Seas slight to moderate, with wave heights in open waters up to 2.0 meters and below 1.0 meter in sheltered areas.
Regional news now. ExxonMobil Guyana spent approximately $146 billion with local suppliers in 2025 as the company highlighted continued expansion of local participation in the country's oil and gas sector. And of course, that energy sector is now the backbone of Guyana's economy. And thankfully, they have a good president in place to utilize this increased foreign revenue, to diversify the entire economy, while also upgrading the infrastructure and healthcare and education system in Guyana. The figure was disclosed by ExxonMobil Guyana President Alistair Routledge during a press briefing at the company's Ogle headquarters on Thursday, where he outlined the company's latest local content performance and broader economic impact. The figures come as Guyana's oil and gas industry continues to scale rapidly, with multiple offshore projects in operation and several more under development, creating sustained demand for goods and services across a wide range of sectors, and of course it's going to be providing increased employment as well. Onion importers in Jamaica are pushing back against suggestions that their business is killing local farmers now experiencing a glut. Since the first round of reaping began following the devastation wrought by Hurricane Melissa, local farmers have been howling about the inability to sell their produce, resulting in hundreds of pounds rotting in the field. From St. Elizabeth to St. Thomas, they have pointed the finger of blame at importers of foreign-produced onions. Yeah, but maybe, just maybe, the price for the imported product is probably cheaper than what you are selling it at. And that's the thing about it. That's what happens a lot of the time, even here in Trinidad and Tobago. You get nicer, bigger pieces of chicken imported, and probably a little more expensive, but when you look at the size, it's worth it than having to purchase the local products. We have to find a way to be able to reduce the price of production of crops and livestock here in Trinidad and Tobago. However, those importers insisted the current situation is much more nuanced, arguing that the perfect storm was created by the closure of hotels in Melissa's wake and increased food importation as Jamaicans and other well-wishers sent thousands of tons of relief to the hurricane-ravaged parishes. Exactly. This, the importers argued, led to an unprecedented pileup at the ports and clearance delays. Import licenses are typically issued to coincide with the period when local crops are not being produced. But importers claim those lags in the delivery process resulted in an unfortunate overlap this season. So you see how Jamaica does it? They put it in place where, you know, when you're importing those products, it's because most of the times the local crops, the local items aren't really available in a large amount.
2013 when I come in at the game, it feel like a hero because the country, I tell you how much demands for this and that. I'm going to put in all work, catch up to my yield factors, match with the riders, everything, and we just feel like a hero. The whole of it, we started from 2013, 2014, we just feel like a hero. Now we feel like a downplayed hero because all of this was imposed by the IMF. How for back so the country can afford to pay them back. So we march out to it aggressively. If you know some pay back the IMF debt, help the country. Now we need help. The country need help go back. Yeah, somewhere, somewhere.
A storm is brewing at the popular Paradise Bats Rock Beach in St. Michael, Barbados, where regular sea bathers and tourists are furious over the sudden erection of poles and fencing around the defunct Four Seasons hotel site. Some concerned citizens slammed the narrow pathway left for beachgoers, warning that during high tide there would hardly be any space to walk or bathe. They are also questioning whether the barrier was intended to be a permanent structure. Joanne Haig, communication specialist for the developer, sought to allay those fears, stating that the construction was a temporary necessity and installed solely for the protection of the public to facilitate demolition and construction. So, of course, you don't have to fear. Just now you will have the normal, nice, wider area to be able to walk and go to enjoy that beach.
My name's Mindy. I'm from New York, and this is my first time in Barbados. I have to say, this is kind of sad that we're taking up all the beaches here. Where's everyone gonna go? So I said to my friend who's from Barbados, how come nobody's sitting on the beach? And it's because there's hardly any beach left. Pretty sad.
This is your first time visiting this beach?
Yeah, but I want you all to be able to preserve your islands.
Security reform. The Free National Movement in Bahamas is pledging sweeping reforms to the country's criminal justice and immigration systems. as party members sharply criticized the progressive Liberal Party's handling of what they described as a growing national crisis. Just the name of the political party that's in office right now is quite concerning. Elizabeth candidate Heather Hunt argued that the government is not doing enough to secure the nation's borders. Sounds like PNM here in Trinidad, boy. While Yamakro candidate Ellsworth Johnson accused the administration of politicizing national security instead of treating it as a priority. Now, doesn't that sound like the Democrats in America who always politicizing those issues instead of just simply doing what the Trump administration is doing, securing the border? FNM Deputy Leader Shannon Cartwright also vowed that if elected, the party's primary focus will be bail reform and a transformation of the legal system. They appear to be sounding as though they're leaning on the conservative side of politics. And if that's the case, maybe, just maybe, they would be the right party, the correct party to win the elections later on this year.
And every morning, under this government, I am deeply disturbed. Everybody knows that we have a serious problem securing our borders. Everybody except the PLP. This immigration crisis is costing us. It costs us in the hospitals, where resources are stretched by patients who have no documentation and no payment pathway.
What Heather Hunt described at our borders is the result of years of inadequate investment in the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, in our Coast Guard capacity, in technology, and in personnel needed to monitor and manage a nation of islands. These are no surprise. They are predictable consequences of a government that treats immigration as a political talking point rather than national security imperative.
The FNM will protect those that have sworn to protect us. That's why we will rebuild our national security infrastructure with more resources for the Defense Force and the police. We will stop the abuse of bail to high-risk individuals to keep them off the streets. And while we respect the independence of the courts, an FNM government will aggressively appeal questionable bail decisions.
Desperate plea as the search for missing 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie reaches week 7. Her family is urging renewed attention to help bring her home and uncover evidence that could help solve the case. Someone knows something, the Guthrie said in a statement, adding, no detail is too small. Definitely, sometimes the slightest of details is what the FBI needs to be able to crack open or break open a case. It may be the key. I have been following this case for quite a while now. It's really concerning. And, you know, usually when time passes, so much time passes, it's usually not a good sign. Let's just hope and pray that she is still alive and that she returns to her family safe and sound. In Jesus' name. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said warns that Iran is no longer only a threat in the Middle East, telling Trey Yinks that Iran is putting everyone in their sights. And that is not just an opinion, you know, people. They are attacking their own neighbors that were supporting them, funding them and all. If you want proof that Iran endangers the entire world, the last 48 hours has given it. My response, I wonder what the QAnon Putin lovers and jihadists have to say about Netanyahu speaking with journalists in public now, people. You will see the video for yourself. It's in public now. Is this yet another AI video? A journalist all part of this conspiracy to cover up his so-called death? I mean, people, come on. You're talking about even well-known American influencers are falling for the trap, falling for the jihadist lies that Benjamin Netanyahu is dead. Now he is seen in a video speaking and interacting with journalists in public. Are you going to say that is AI too? Or are you going to say that all those different media houses are covering up his death? Media houses that most of the times don't even like Benjamin Netanyahu? Make it make sense to the people.
If you want proof that Iran endangers the entire world, the last 48 hours have given it. In the last 48 hours, Iran targeted a civilian area. They're doing that as a mass murder weapon. Luckily, no one was killed, but that's due to luck, not their intention. Their intention is to murder civilians. Second, they fired on Jerusalem right next to the holy sites of the three monotheistic faiths, the Western Wall, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, and the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And by dint of a miracle again, none of them were hurt, but they were targeting the holy sites of the three major monotheistic religions. Third, they fired an intercontinental ballistic missile on Diego Garcia. That's 4,000 kilometers. I've been warning all the time. They have now the capacity to reach deep into Europe. They already have fired on a European country, Cyprus. They are putting everyone in their sights. And fourth, they're stopping a maritime international route, energy route, and trying to blackmail the entire world. What more proof do you need that this regime that threatens the entire world has to be stopped?
Democrat Senator John Fetterman opens up about being the lone Democrat to support the Trump administration's military strikes against Iran, pointing out that lawmakers in his party have said for years that U.S. cannot allow Iran to acquire a nuclear bomb. And that's the thing about it is, all they did was talk. And even a lot of Republican presidents only talked and said Iran can't do this and Iran can't do that. But yet they didn't take any decisive action to prevent it from taking place. Thankfully, Trump did what everybody else was afraid to do. Finish the job. Go in and ensure that now, for sure, unlike even last year, now for sure, the Ayatollah, even if they end up remaining in power, have no capability of attacking anyone in their region anymore, and definitely not attacking Israel or America.
When Kamala Harris ran for president in 2024, she identified Iran as her top concern. Every single Democrat has said, can't ever allow them to acquire a nuclear bomb. And when someone does that and make sure that's almost impossible, why can't we celebrate that? That comes from the truth, that because the other side did that, and if it comes from Trump, it's punishing as a Democrat to agree with that thing. And that's the place, and that's where I live, in that space. But I will always follow what I think are the moral clarities, and that's whatever you want to, country over party. But it's a great thing that Iran has been broken. Now, why am I the only Democrat that just says those same things?
Now for the interesting facts segment on Kauai, visitors can join a unique program run by the Kauai Humane Society called Shelter Dogs on Field Trips. Tourists spend the day with a shelter dog exploring beaches, trails, and scenic spots together. The outings help dogs build confidence, reduce stress, and improve their chances for adoption. For travelers, it's a rewarding way to enjoy the island while giving back as well. Having a companion while on your journey. The program beautifully combines tourism with compassion, creating meaningful experiences for both people and animals. Isn't that a wonderful fact?
Welcome to Real Conservative News Travel Adventures. Denali National Park, home to 20,310-foot Denali, North America's highest peak, offers 6 million acres of untamed Alaska wilderness, tundra, and glaciers. Visitors can spot Alaska's big 5-inch moose, bears, caribou, wolves, and Dall sheep via narrated bus tours, independent transit buses, or hiking along the 92-mile Denali Park Road. Key experiences and tips. Denali Park Road. Private vehicles are limited to the first 15 miles, Savage River. To access the heart of the park, take a green transit bus, flexible hop-on hop-off, or a beige tour bus narrated. Wildlife viewing: the best chances for spotting grizzly bears, caribou, and moose are along the park road, often during a day-long bus tour. Hiking options range from the easy paved paths near the visitor center and checking out the sled dog kennels to challenging, off-trail tundra hiking. Join us again tomorrow as we travel the world together.
Folks, that brings us to the end of today's news report. Thanks again to everyone who continues to support my content. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stay blessed and stay safe, most of all, in Jesus' name.